Hello, everyone. April Cox here. We have a great event for you today. If you are wondering about profitability and how to maximize profitability and should you run ads and what kind of marketing should you do? Should you print in bulk? We've got lots of information we're going to cover today. And I have a special guest speaker, Jay Miletsky, who is here with us. I met Jay when I first started as an author. He is managing a children's book Facebook group that now is around 65,000 children's book authors and illustrators. Fabulous. I'll put the link in the description here. But Jay not only is a best-selling author, he has created opportunities for authors between summits and training and different things that he is making available to authors. He also has OKB's bookstore. He has created the IAPC, which helps authors with doing print runs and helping to get books in bulk from China, from high quality China printing. There is so much to learn today, and I'm so happy to have Jay Miletsky with us. Now let's get started.
When it comes to, messages in books, the people who really love a good message in a book is every independent author who's ever wanted to write one. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone who reads books or buys them wants a really heavy-handed message. Barry the bully who learned to be kind isn't going to sell very well. Even if that's what you want to write, it doesn't mean that's what's going to sell. So, when I first wrote my book, I tried to think of what's the story that I want to write, but what's also the story that people want to read. And I tried to find, that intersection and create my characters and my plots around that so that I wasn't just sitting with a book that was going to end up just sitting on a shelf and collecting dust. So I think that was one, was just the story itself. Two was that, I did take a risk and I didn't go the easy or inexpensive route. I did have a contract in front of me from Scholastic. I realized that I could make 45 cents per book if I did it that way and not have to put any money out of my pocket. But I also realized at the same time that if I did it myself, I can make $4.50 a book instead of 45 cents, which sounded a lot better to me. And I'm not someone who minds taking a risk. I've always been entrepreneurial spirited. So I decided to open my own little LLC, my own publishing company. I printed the right way. I printed them overseas in China, had them shipped back to the US. I didn't skimp out. I didn't do 500 or 1,000 units. I did 3,500 units to start. That put some pressure on me to sell the books. I knew that if I didn't have that pressure, I was never going to get out there and sell them. I've told people very often, like April had mentioned, I run a company that works with a lot of authors. I mean, we run 35, 40 projects simultaneously. We print millions of books at this point. And when someone orders 500 units of a book, I can guarantee you that person will never, ever print their books again. That will be their last printing, because 500 units, A, just isn't enough of an investment for anyone to really care that much about. And B, the profit margin is so slim that when they do sell a book, it's not exciting to them. So they move on to the next hobby. When you print up more, like I did, I printed 3,500 units, I'm putting real money into it. And that put a lot of pressure on me to go out and sell them. So that was a second thing. A third thing was that I really honed in on the teacher market. One of the very first things that I did was I created workbooks and worksheets and curriculum around my book that I put up on Teachers Pay Teachers. I put that on for free. Anyone could download the workbook pages off of my site for free. All they have to do is give me their name and address. So I started building up an email database of teachers to reach out to. I would do street fairs and book festivals. And I really wouldn't care if I sold any books. I mean, I would sell books, which was always great. But the bigger thing was I recognized that you go to a street fair and at least 1/3 of everyone who comes to your table is a teacher or a PTA member or a school admin or a parent who's invested in their kid's class. And I have signs all over saying, if you're interested in having an author for a school visit, let me know. Every time I would have an event, I'd get 4 or 5 school visits from that. And, every school visit, in my early days, I was making $800 per school visit. Now I make close to $2,000 for a school visit, and it's almost all pure profit. I focused on teachers. I invested in my book. I took the profits from those books and I parlayed them into larger print runs, into more titles. And I also was not afraid to invest in advertising. I advertised my book very, very heavily. The very first month that I started, I think I spent $200 on advertising. The second month, I think I spent $350. This last month, I think I spent $75,000 in advertising. So, I'm obviously not expecting anyone here to spend $75,000 a month in advertising. But again, I didn't start that way either. I started just with two $200. And I just continued to build off of that. And I wasn't afraid to take a loss. If you go into it being afraid to lose $50, you're not going to make it. You have to be expected to take a loss. I took a loss for my first couple of years. Another thing that really helped out, and this is not something that most people can control, I was very fortunate to have a wife who was willing to allow me to make an investment and to take a risk. I know that I've spoken with a lot of authors who want to do it, but they say their husbands or their wives simply aren't on board. And so they pull back. I've been fortunate that my wife has said, look, I see the potential here. Let's invest. Let's, we're going to live kind of like, skin and bones for the next couple of years, and we'll see the results of that later. And then that's kind of what happened. A few years ago when I wrote Ricky, I was living in a hotel. I just been separated from my wife. If you ever drive by the highway and you see those like extended stay hotels for businesses, where, business people are supposed to go there. If they've got meetings for a whole week, they stay there. I'll tell you an inside secret. Those hotels have nothing to do with business meetings. Those hotels are filled with 300 guys who are just recently separated from their wives and are just trying to figure out their next move. Because that's exactly what it was. It was me and hundreds of other guys who were just gotten separated. That's where I wrote Ricky the Rock. After that, I lived in a really, there's no one, I don't see anyone here pictures with kids there. So I'm not going to be afraid to curse. I lived in a really shitty apartment after that for a while. We got to a point where we could have gotten a small house, and my wife, like I said, very supportive, said, look, let's just continue to invest in this. I see what the future is. And at 50 years old, last year, I was living in the basement of my in-laws' house, who are awesome people, extremely accommodating, but it takes a hit to your ego to do that. And then last summer, we bought a huge house with the money that we made from all these books. And it's in part because, I had the support that I needed. And so I do tell people, if you're going to get involved in this, recognize it's going to be an investment. Make sure you've got the support of your immediate family behind you. Explain to them, look, it's going to be a rough road. It's not going to go straight up. But if we invest in it and we push it and we do things the right way and we don't hold back, we can get over that hump and make a good deal of money. There's money to be made here for sure.
You also talked about school visits. How do you get schools to pay for your visits? So let's talk about like when you first started with school visits and how that has grown since then.
Sure. So like I said, I really focused on teachers to begin with. By working on worksheets and projects, worksheets without coloring pages are bullshit. No one wants that. No one gives the easiest, cheapest, and stupidest way to just get things out there, because it doesn't take any real effort on your part. And every teacher has access to 1 million coloring pages at this point. Give them vocabulary pages, give them discussion topics. So if you're reading the book, what to talk about during it, at certain points of the book, what to talk about after the book. Give them prompts so they can write their own stories featuring your characters. A whole bunch of things. Look through. Go on to the Scholastic website. They've got some great resources for worksheets and for curriculum for their books. Download some of those. See what they do. Find the ones that you think make the most sense for your book, and put some effort into creating them. Then, like I said, give them away on teacherspayteachers.com. Start an account there. Give them away. Give them away to anybody that you want. Go on to Facebook and say, hey, if there's any teachers here, you're interested in some worksheets and some curriculum, whatever else, just let me know and I'll send it to you. Right? Because guaranteed, if you got some friends on Facebook, some of them are teachers. You might not even realize, but they're there. And there's no point in someone using your worksheets unless they've also bought the book, right? And every time you can get a teacher to buy your book, he or she becomes a marketing vehicle for you, where they are now reading your book and marketing your book to 20, 25, 30 kids in a classroom. And if those kids like the book, and then they're talking about the book afterwards, and they're doing it every year. And if those kids like the book, they're going to go home and say, Mom, Dad, can you get me this book? And that tends to happen. If a teacher starts to use your book and they start to like it, they're very likely to reach out to you and say, hey, listen, are you available for school visits? You should have that on your website. You should have a very large area that schedule me for a school visit where people can actually just set it by a calendar. I do have another book called Ricky the Rock that just couldn't rhyme. And it's the very first time I've done this, where in the end of the book, I basically have, hey kids, get your teacher to invite me to your school. Send me an email at Jay Miletsky at, j@meetmrj.com. And once a week now I get an email just from that one page of people saying, hey, I saw that you can do school visits. Could you do them? How do we do that? So, that's kind of one thing. But as far as, I also send a lot of emails out, and I'm going to give you guys the best kept open secret in the world. This is something you can do. You sit home at night, pour yourself a glass of wine, watch Stranger Things or whatever you're watching on Netflix, and put your laptop in your lap and go to Google and just type in every county in your state. You're from Texas, type out every county. Just Google all the counties in your state. pick a county, and then type in look for the school districts in that county. You'll find a list of all the different school districts in that county. Okay, so I'm just choosing the Oakland, New Jersey public school systems because I this is where I went, and I'm familiar with this page. So this is the website for the Oakland Public School District. Like I said, where I went to school, and they changed this a little bit, so it might take me a couple of seconds to find it. Select the school. So I'm going to select Manitou Elementary School, which is where I went to school, and somewhere in here, here it is, staff directory. Click on that, and here is everyone who works there. You see teacher. These are all teachers who work in the school. And as you can see, there are 3 pages of teachers' names along with their email. You'll see it says, Carney at oaklandschoolnewjersey.org. And I don't want to sit here copying and pasting it. There are plugins that I can get for my Chrome browser or whatever browser I'm using, where I can just click a button at the very top and say, just grab every email that you see on this page and put it into a database for me. And next thing you know, I've got 70, 80,000 email addresses of teachers in various states. And every couple of weeks, I send them an email saying, hey, this is the book that I've written. This is why it's important. This is what it teaches. If you are interested in having a school visit, here's how you can, reach out to me. And that works. And again, you just sit there. And I mean, by the time your glass of wine is finished, you should have 500-600 names. And you do that every night for an hour or so, you suddenly have an email database that's pretty substantial. What's interesting is I don't really tell anybody that I charge. I technically don't charge for my school visits. When someone asks me how much do you charge, I tell them I don't. It's technically free. What I ask for you to do is I ask you to guarantee that you'll sell at least 50 books to parents. I will send you an order form. You send that order form home, whether through email or by printing it out and giving it and sending it home with the kid in the kid's backpack. If the parents buy 50 units or more at the full cover price, and I don't give a discount because you're not only getting the book, but you're also getting the book with my signature on it because I will be signing it for the kids in front of them. Then as long as you sell 50 books at $18.95 a piece, then my visit is free. Except for expenses. You have to pay for travel expenses. Whatever, flying, driving, hotels. If you sell fewer, you sell 30 books. Okay, then you're on the hook for 20 books. That's not that big of a deal. Schools may be able to afford that. So that's basically my gig. And I never had a school yet that's come under 50 units. The average now is 119. So 119, just break out the calculator, 119 times 18.95. That's $2,255 for me going in and doing a presentation or two and, signing the books for all the kids and all that. So, and that also has been helped over the years by the fact that I have more titles. When I only had Ricky, I could only sell Ricky, right? Here's the order form that I send home to the parents. It shows the book. Keep in mind, showing me is very important because schools aren't hiring the book. Schools are hiring me. It takes me literally 6 minutes to read my book. The rest of that 45-minute time frame for a presentation is me. I have to be entertaining. I've got to be energetic. I've got to get the kids interested and not talking to each other and focus and engaged. So I'm not really selling the book. I am selling me as a presenter. So here's a picture of me, meet Mr. J, because the goal is not just to hear a book, but to meet the author. When you go to a school, the kids get to meet you and you are a real author. And you are Bon Jovi in their minds. You really are. I mean, for a 7-year-old to see the author of a book, that's a big deal. So you're selling yourself. And now, like I said, when I first started, all I had to sell was Ricky. Now I send this home. I might be reading Ricky, but you can also buy any of these other books. And if you buy 2 or more, you're going to get a copy of this one for free. This is The Nosebiting Monster is a book that I wrote that never really sold. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to pulp them. I'm going to use them as incentives to buy more books. Buy 2 books and get this one free. So now I get kids coming in and they're buying, one kid will buy 5 books, so suddenly my average number is insane. I've had schools where I've sold literally 150, 160 books in one shot. So yeah, there's a lot of money to be made with schools for sure.
So you definitely agree that having more books is better. Do you think it's important that the books be in a series?
No, not necessarily. I do think there's a lot of value in series for sure. I don't know that it's always a good idea to go into it thinking, wow, I'm gonna build a series. I think ever since our Harry Potter became popular, everyone has had an idea for a series of books, right? We're all misusing the word series. A series is where book 3 has to follow book 2. And you're not really going to understand book 3 unless you have read book 2. What we're really talking about is collections, where I've got Ricky the Rock that couldn't roll, Ricky the Rock that just couldn't rhyme. I'm coming out with Ricky the Rock that wanted to wander. You don't have to read one before the other. They all will make sense no matter what order. So it's a collection of books featuring the same characters. Now, in that case, Ricky just became such a popular character that, of course, I'm going to continue to build off of that. Why do TVs have spinoffs? Because we have popular characters. We want to continue to grow that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't do just well with a really strong one-off book. In my book, Bear and the Fern, I have no interest in that being a collection. I don't want that to continue. I want that to be a one-off book. And that still sells very well. That's sold very well for 4 years now as a one-off book. I feel like I would kind of kill something with it if I continue with those characters. But I think if you have a book out there with characters that seem to really resonate, it makes sense that you would want to continue that. So you can do well with both, but I think it is important to have multiple books.
What do you typically do at a school visit in order to engage? I know that you do more than just presentations. You're also doing literacy type things as well with them, aren't you?
It depends on the age group. And I'll tell you one thing before I even get started with what I do for the kids and for the presentations. At this point, I don't really have a huge need to reach out to a lot of schools anymore, because the schools that I've already been to will just use me over and over again. Every year I hear from the same schools wanting me to come back over and over again. And one of the reasons why that is because I am extremely accommodating. I will make sure that I give a fist bump to every kid that I meet. I talk to kids as I'm walking down the hallway. When we're signing the books, a kid comes up to me and, I'll say, I'm signing a book for him. What's your name? Max. How do you spell that, Max? I know how to spell Max, but he wants to spell it for me. M-A-X. Wow. Awesome. Great job. Fist bump. I'm making sure I'm engaging with each of the kids, right? Love your shirt. Love your hair. Really cool name, whatever it is, right? Great to meet you, buddy. Send them on their way. And the kids get excited by that. As I'm walking the halls, I'm waving to kids in the classroom. They get excited by it. If a parent has sent a kid to school on that day and they didn't send him with any money and the kid is crying because if they're in kindergarten, all their friends have gotten books and he hasn't, I give that kid a book for free, right? I'm not going to be afraid to spend $2 to give the kid a book. I give a free book to the teacher who organized it. I give a free book to the principal. I give a free book to each of the secretaries who have helped me to sign in. A free book to the janitors who've helped to clean up the cafe gymatorium after every presentation. A free book to the library. I give a free book to every special needs classroom. So if there's 5 special needs classrooms, every classroom gets a free book. The fact that I'm so accommodating and perceived as being very generous and I'm not a diva at all is why they keep coming back to me over and over again. I've seen schools that have told me, we've had other authors in here who charge more for an autograph and who don't engage with the kids. And the whole point is to engage with the kids.
Right.
So that's one thing that I say is very important. What I'm doing is I'm basically there, and for I've got 2 presentations. One is K through 3, and for K through 3, I will introduce myself. We'll talk about what an author is, what an author does, whether or not the author is always the person who does the illustrations. If not, that person is called the illustrator. We talk about that a little bit. Then I read the book to them. I get them engaged. Like I don't just sit there reading the book. While I'm reading it to them, I'm also getting them involved in it. So I'm reading this book, they were Kip, Pip, and Chester and Marvin the Boulder. First of all, I also have it memorized. I do not sit there reading it and then turning it, reading it, turning it. I memorized my own book. I memorized my book to the point that as I'm presenting it, I'm actually thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner that night. I no longer have to even think about it. You can't present your book to a bunch of kids and have to look at it every page. You got it on a projector. Projector is shooting, behind you onto a screen so everyone can see it. When I get to this part, there were Kip, Pip, and Chester, Marvin the Boulder. He used to play 2, though he was much older. And a group called the Pebbles never ever sat still. He's zagging away up and over the hill. Then ask them, okay, guys, you if you guys were rocks, raise your hands if you would be really big, strong boulders. And all the kids raise their hand. Okay. All right. Put your hands down. Now raise your hands if you'd be really crazy, fast, zippy little pebbles. And of course, they all go nuts. They all want to be pebbles. Right. So we talk about that a little bit. Right. Then as I'm reading, I get to the part where Ricky is just sitting here by himself and he is sad because he's on the hill and he can't roll because he's flat on one side. Right. And I say to them, so if you guys were rocks, you would just let Ricky sit there by himself. Right. No, well, you wouldn't. What would you do? We'd help him. Oh my God, I love hearing that. That's exactly why I was so excited to come to your school. You guys are such great friends. That's exactly what my friends, the Rocks, did, right? And one of the best ways we can help our friends is by cheering them along. The same way we cheer along. I'm speaking very quickly now, but I don't do that with kids. Best way we can help our friends is by cheer them along. The same way we cheer along our favorite baseball team or soccer team or football team. So when I raise my hand, I want you guys to shout, come roll. Okay. So his friends didn't get it. And they would all say, come roll. All right, that's kind of enthusiastic, but I think we can do a lot better. Let's try that again. His friends didn't get it. Now they're all yelling, come roll. That's awesome. Great job. So I'm getting them involved. All right. I'm making sure they are reading it with me. They're staying engaged because I'm excited about it. If I'm not excited about it, why should they be excited about it? This is my book. I have to be the most excited one in the room about this book, right? If I'm not reading it in an excited way, then they're not going to be listening to it in any way that matters. Right. And then we talk about what the themes are. Okay, so the themes are friendship and teamwork and perseverance. And I give examples of each one, right? I give this long-winded example of perseverance about me playing the piano and whatever else. I haven't touched a piano ever. I've never ever touched a piano, but those kids don't know that. It makes for a great story. So I talk about all that. Then I share the real reason why I wrote the book about my daughter. My daughter has cerebral palsy. Okay. And so at the end, when I show, Bria the ladybug, on this last page, the second to last page, I got this and I say, Ricky the Rock rolled, and everyone goes nuts because he rolled. And I'll say to them, so hey, I've introduced you to all my rock friends, but there's still one character that's been on every single page that I haven't introduced you to yet. Who's that? And all the kids shout, the ladybug. Exactly. And her name is Bria. And she's also really important to the story. And I read the one page where Bria is mentioned. And at the end, and then when I talk about all the themes of the book, I then talk about, so one of the reasons why I really enjoy writing is because I like to write about things that are important to me. And the most important thing to me are my kids. And I show pictures of my kids in the background. I talk about my sons. And then here's my daughter, who's 11 years old. Who wants to guess what her name is? And then all the hands go up. What do you think her name is? Linda? No. Why would you say that? It makes no sense. I don't say that to them. In my mind, I'm thinking, why would it make no sense? Right? But eventually someone will figure out that it's Bria, right? We talk about how that's critical thinking. Of course, you figured it out because obviously if I'm asking you, there must be a reason why I'm asking you. And the biggest name that I've mentioned besides Ricky is Bria. So yes, my daughter's name is Bria. I named my ladybug after her, but my daughter's not really like my ladybug. My daughter's very much like Ricky. The same way that Ricky couldn't roll because he's flat on one side, my daughter is 11 years old and she can't walk or talk yet because my daughter has something called cerebral palsy. Then I talk about what cerebral palsy is. And I talk about how the same way that Ricky has all of his good friends, who never gave up on him. My daughter has friends and family, doctors, nurses, teachers, aides, and therapists who work constantly to help her to progress. And I show a video of her walking in her gait trainer, right? And I talk about that. And every kid at that point, anyone who was talking before has stopped talking because I have shared something personal with them. Here's a reason behind why I wrote this book. And that is meaningful to them. They can hear you talk about whatever the reason is, right? Why the book is meaningful to you. That really resonates. Right. And then I open it up for questions and answers. And I make sure, here's the thing with that. Every kid is going to ask a question based off of the first question that's asked. So if the first question is, how much money do you make? Every other question is going to be in that realm. Right. If the first question is how come the rocks could put vines around Ricky, but they don't have any hands? Every question will be like that. So I make sure that before, when the kids are coming in, I pull a teacher aside and I tell him or her, listen, at Q&A time, I'm going to ask if anyone has a question, could you please raise your hand? You'll be the first question. Please ask a question about writing books. And then all the other kids will follow in line. Right. So I make sure I have that all planned out in advance. So nice. That's sort of like what I do during my events. And I also, if I'm going to be there for the older kids, for the fourth grade and up, I kind of read through the book pretty quickly because fifth grade isn't really that interested in picture books. Fourth grade still is, but they pretend like they're not. A couple of kids in fourth grade have read Harry Potter, so all the other kids feel like they have to also, but those kids secretly still like picture books. So I'll still read it with some enthusiasm. Fifth grade and up, I read the book kind of quickly, kind of like plow through it. And then I talk about how to write a story, how to write and rhyme. I give them some workshop type stuff where they help me to create some rhyming lines. They really get into it. I can't sell as many books to the older kids, but I really enjoy it. And the kids get a lot out of it. And that makes the school more into me and wanting to bring me back again and again.
How long typically are the visits that you do with the schools?
If I'm traveling, like if I'm traveling, let's say out of state, I try to maximize my time. So I'll try to do one school in the morning and another school in the afternoon because I want to maximize that as much as possible. And I'll tell you, it's so easy. If I can get one school out of state to reach out to me, that immediately means I can get 4 schools. Okay. So here's what happens. One school reaches out to me and says, hey, would you be interested in coming out to my school and doing a presentation? Sure. Where are you from? Michigan. No problem. I can come out there. But here's the deal. If I'm going to come out there, you have to pay my expenses, right? And that means flying out there. And I don't fly coach. I fly first class and I stay in nice hotels. That's a lot of money for your school to have to cover. So if you can find a bunch of other schools for me to come to the day before and day after your event, I'll split up the expenses among those schools. Your school doesn't have to cover anything. And guaranteed within a week, that one teacher or school has gotten me 4 other engagements to the day before, to the day after, because they have all the incentive in the world. They don't have to pay a dime. And all the other schools then split the expenses. That's pretty cool. Otherwise, if I'm local and I got nothing else to do that day, I'll do a presentation in the morning, presentation in the afternoon. And if it's like that, what I'll do is I'll also, instead of just sitting there by myself in between, I'll also say, look, if you want me to meet with some of the kids during lunch, have a contest or pick out some kids that really enjoy writing and rhyming or writing and storytelling. And I'll have lunch with a dozen kids. Again, it's all about endearing the school to me so that next year they call me again and again and again. In the last year or two, there's still a bunch of slushy COVID money that is filtering through these schools. I've got schools now telling me, listen, forget the whole 50 units pre-guarantee things. We've got money that we have to spend on something. So we'll just buy 200 books from you to give to every kid in the second and third grade, whatever it is. At some point that, the slushy COVID money will go away. But for right now, it's still a thing.
I'm going to switch over to talk a little bit about advertising, because you did mention that advertising was so key to your success. And I know you put a lot of money into advertising. What typically are you looking for an ACOS? Do you have any tips for people that are brand new for advertising in order to kind of get started with it and things to watch out for?
Yeah. So, it's funny. I think that on the ACOS side, I think a lot of people get caught up with that. They stay too regimented to it. So anyone who doesn't know what that means, ACOS is the advertising cost of sale. How much is it costing me to sell in advertising dollars to sell my book? You have to play the long game. And some people will, if they get an ACOS of higher than, let's say, 25%, they freak out. I actually will take any ACOS up to 100%. Right? Meaning that it would basically be costing me the same amount of money in terms of advertising that I'm making back in terms of dollars. But here's the thing. Amazon doesn't give you real-time data. Okay. So if I'm looking at an ad and my ad is showing me kind of really poor results right now, and I rush to turn that ad off because I don't want to keep on paying money for it, what I might find is 7 days later, that particular ad campaign is hit a home run, because Amazon continues to apply sales to that ad up to 7 days later, right? So looking at an ad now I really have no data at all. But here's the way it works. The number that I care about the most is my bestseller rank. The closer my bestseller ranks are to number one, the more books I'm selling. So you can see here are my bestseller ranks. These are the numbers that I care about. So I've got 460, 1258. This one I'm kind of anxious to get back in the top 1,000. These two aren't doing nearly as well as I'd like them to. They both should be in the top 2,000. This book has kind of started to spike up all of a sudden, which I'm really happy about. I just got to figure out why these two are kind of like lingering a little bit. So let's take a look at this. This is just for today. So overall, I'm at about 100%, my ACOS. I have 154 orders today. I spent $2,100. I made back $2,100. Okay. That's obviously not great. I don't love that. I'd like for these numbers to be better. And I'll go through and I'll look at these are all the different portfolios that I have. And within each portfolio, and I can see how each one is doing. Obviously, some of them are doing not great at all. I mean, I've got one here that's doing 312% ACOS, and I'll go in and I'll make some tweaks and changes to that. If I open up my Ricky the Rock one, I've sold 56 units of that book today. I'll see some of them are out of budget. And I'll go through, and anyway, it's over 100%. I'll change the budget to be under what I've spent. So I turn that one basically off for the day without having to actually pause it. Anything else, I'll just keep going. And I'll make sure that I've got enough money in the daily budget that the ads are going to continue to run. I mean, I'm never going to spend $1,000 in this one campaign, but by putting 1,000, I'm ensuring that the campaign is going to continue to run. Over time, these numbers will go down because, like I said, the data comes in later. But here's the deal. Here's what happens. Let's just go back to my portfolios. I've sold 154 books today. It's only books that I've sold through ads. This is not counting books that I've sold organically. The more ads I get out there, the more activity to my pages, the more books I've sold through ads, the more Amazon also gives me a lot of non-advertising organic visibility. That visibility turns into even more. So I haven't sold 154 books today. I've sold probably close to 300 books today. But when Amazon sends me purchase orders, they don't send me purchase orders for 300 books. They say, hey, these books are selling. We're going to send you a purchase order for 450 books because we want some books on the shelf. So as these sales and these orders go up, we have enough books to fulfill them. I mean, let's just look at my last month's spend. And this is, we got to remember, we're in the dog days of the year right now. I mean, this is not a time where books are going to sell very well. May, June are pretty bad days. Until August comes, it kind of sucks. So I spent $88,000 in advertising last month. This is my sales database. So look at May, I had 142,000 in gross sales, right? So 142 minus 88, that 142 doesn't include another like 17,000 that hasn't been added onto here yet. So it's really about 159. I did $159,000 in May. 159 minus 88 is I made $71,000. So $71,000 what I made minus cost of goods sold, minus the money that I had to pay to the distributor. I probably ended up making about $25,000 in profit for May. Not bad for a down month. Okay. And then once we start getting into August, like I said, we're going to start seeing these numbers 3-4x. And that's where you start to make some money. December comes, I'm not walking out without a profit of at least 150 for the month. But again, that's because I have multiple titles. I've got multiple, I got a lot of ads going. I'm not afraid to spend the money on the ads, but again, that's after 5 years. When I started off, I didn't start off that way. I started off spending just $250, but I wasn't afraid to build up to that.
So for somebody that's new and just starting ads now, do you have any recommendations like on an opening bid, like for this time of year, you need a lot higher bid just to get things moving?
For any particular reason I can think of, I typically have always started with about 75 cents as a bid. I also allow Amazon to increase my spend up to about 12% to make sure I get better placement. And I try a whole bunch of different kinds of ads. I try automatic ads. I try keywords ads. I break up my keywords as finely as I possibly can. Like I'll have a keyword list for first grade boys, first grade girls, first spelled out FIRST, first with a 1 and an ST afterwards. Best first grade books for boys, best first grade book for girls, spelled out and done with the number. And I come up with a whole list like that. Then I do the same thing for second grade and third grade. Each one of those is a separate list. I'll do a list for my own name, Jay Miletsky, Jason Miletsky, Mr. J, Mr. J books, best Mr. J books, whatever it is. I'll use all my titles. I advertise against my titles because if someone else searches for my titles, I don't want someone else to show up there. I want to take that ad space from them. Every couple of weeks, I go through the top 10, not top 100 books in different categories. And I grab the titles of those books and the authors, and I create a new list from that. I do automatic ads. I do display ads. I'm constantly testing ads. I mean, you saw just some ads that I'm running. That doesn't include all the ads that I have turned off over the years because they didn't work. And I allow a month or two's worth of data so that I can get a sense of, what's working, what's not working.
So would you say that gaining knowledge on Amazon ads is critical success factor for a publisher?
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say if you have access to Amazon ads, then absolutely you should use it because it's a great tool. If I have a nail that I got to nail into a piece of wood and I have a hammer near me, of course, it makes sense for me to use the hammer. That's the best tool that I can use to nail the nail into the wood. If I don't have a hammer around me, does it mean that I can't possibly nail the nail into the hammer? Of course not. I can find a rock. I'll find something else that's hard and do it that way. But if the hammer is available, I'm going to use it. Best tool available. But if it's not, I'm not going to whine about it. I'm going to find something else to do. Right. So if you have access to Amazon ads, yes, 100% figure out how to use it. If you don't have access to Amazon ads, big deal. Find other ways. Use Facebook advertising, use Google advertising, use Pinterest advertising, Instagram advertising. Find influencers on Instagram who will share your book. Every time a teacher shares my book, as long as she has at least 10,000 followers, I will send her a public message saying, hey, thanks for sharing this. If you want to send me a mailing address, I'll be happy to send you a signed copy of the book. They love that. Other teachers see that. They also start to share it. Right? Because everyone wants a free book. And if you're printing these things in bulk, you're talking about a $3 investment. Sending someone a book is not that big of a deal for a good amount of advertising. Find other ways to market your book. Also recognize that Amazon, while it's very important, Amazon is not the universe. Amazon is, you are in a solar system where Amazon might be the biggest planet. Maybe Amazon is Jupiter. It doesn't mean that Saturn and Neptune and Mercury don't exist, right? If you're not making the headway that you want to on Amazon, sell on your own site and push all the ads over to your own site. Or, like I said, focus on getting school visits. The school visits are so lucrative. Focus on doing street fairs and street events, school and book festivals. You should be able to go to a book festival. You got a table, especially after you have a bunch of other titles. And if you don't have a bunch of other titles, that's okay. Team up with someone else. Team up with 2 or 3 other people who have one title. And you guys all go out to your own street fairs and you all share each other's books and you all sell each other's books. And now so when someone comes to your table, they're not just going to buy one book, they're going to buy 2 or 3, right? You should be able to spend $100 on a booth and walk away with $1,000, $1,500 without too much of an issue, as well as names of teachers that are going to sign you up for school events. So, if you're not making headway on Amazon, find other ways to sell books. I mean, you print up 1,000, 2,000 books, not that hard to sell 1,000, 2,000 books. That's your focus. Your focus is on just selling those books. And again, street fairs, you're not paying distribution fees. You're not paying advertising fees. You're selling at a premium. You're not doing a 50% wholesale discount that you'll be doing to sell to stores. You're making a really good profit on that.
I know you also mentioned Advantage. Would you mind just kind of, for those that aren't familiar with it, just giving us a little explanation of what Advantage is and some of the new stuff you're offering to help authors with an Advantage?
Well, actually, I'm not anymore because there's no reason for me to do it. I was doing it because Amazon Advantage was closed, but now it's opened up again. It's great. When I first started, I was very fortunate that Amazon Advantage, which is one of the selling platforms on Amazon, was an open platform where anybody who had their own IP. Amazon Advantage is for people who are just selling books or magazines, anything that is creative in that sense. You can't go on and sell your old baseball cards or toasters or things like that. But if you're selling printed content, new content, not used books, but if you're selling new books, that's where you do it. And it's great. Amazon Advantage gives you 45% of your cover price. They will send you purchase orders for what they want based on what they perceive to be the demand is going to be the demand moving forward. You pay for the books to be shipped to Amazon. Every week when I send you purchase orders, you fill those purchase orders, you pay for the books to be there, but they don't charge you for storage. They don't charge you for distribution or for fulfillment, and they pay you 40% of the cover price. It's a consignment deal. So they're going to order 100 books from you, send them 100 books. They'll pay you when those books sell. Let's say they sell all the books in November. You're going to get that money the last day of December, right? So they pay you timely. It's good cash flow. Then for a while, they closed it down. There were a lot of people who were scamming Amazon, pretending books that were there when they weren't. They made a lot of changes to it, I think, a lot of very good upgrades to it. And they just recently reopened it again, where even though if you go to advantage.amazon.com, it says that it's not an open platform, it kind of is at this point. You put your name on a list. It seems like within 2 weeks, they're going to just check you out, make sure that you're legit. Within 2 weeks, you're going to get your invite to go on to Amazon Advantage. Now, this is not for books that are printed through Ingram Spark. It's not for books that are printed through KDP. This is for books that are printed in bulk. So you have a store, you have an inventory of 1,000, 2,000, however many units. And then that also gives you access to AMS, Amazon Marketing Services. So now you'll have access to advertise on Amazon. Those ads will turn into sales. Those sales turn into purchase orders. Those purchase orders turn into money in your pocket. The IAPC, that I own, recognize that Advantage is the second best platform that you can get onto on Amazon. And everybody wanted to be on it, but it was just closed off. So we have an Advantage account. We were allowing people to use our Advantage account, but just as we started doing that, Amazon opened up Advantage. So there's really no need for our offering anymore. Okay. The only better platform than Advantage is the platform that I'm on, which is Vendor Central. Vendor Central is for very high volume sellers. It's invite only. Even at the amounts that I sell, I wouldn't be invited to be on Vendor Central. I'm on Vendor Central because I have a distributor that sells to Amazon in huge quantities, not just for me, but for 150 other publishers. They look at, they get approached by thousands of publishers. They have 150 that they actually represent. They take the books to Books A Million and Barnes & Noble and Target and Costco, but they access Amazon through Vendor Central, where the terms are a little bit better. And because we're shipping them on pallets instead of cartons, the shipping fees are a lot cheaper. So I make a lot more money, but it takes a while before you can get on, you're going to get with a distributor. Now my summit, my distributor is going to be there. There's going to be 2 people there looking at books and hearing pitches. There's a small chance that if they see a book they think can sell, that they'll take it even without you having a library of books at your disposal and without having a history of sales. Outside of that, it takes years to get a distributor interested. So Advantage is your best bet.
So I know that there's so much other stuff that you're doing with regard to helping to serve authors. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to talk more, whether it's about your summit. You also have OKB's bookstore, the stuff you're doing with the IAPC. I'd love to open it up and just have you have an opportunity to present some of the stuff you'd like to share with us.
Surely. So, obviously, anyone can reach out to me and ask me, questions whenever you like. But just in short, so the IAPC, Independent Authors Publishing Collective, is a company that I started years ago when people started asking me, they wanted to replicate the success that I had. And, one of the first things that I told everybody is that, in order to have any kind of success, you need to have a profit margin. And I'm always amazed at how many people are so excited to write their books, but have absolutely no interest in figuring out the finances behind it. It's a blessing and a curse that this industry is extremely easy to get into. You take a piece of paper, you write something down on it, you fold it up, you go outside, you sell it on a street, on a street corner. You are a published author who just sold a book. It's just that easy. There's nothing stopping you. It's not like manufacturing toasters. I need to get schematics made, and I need to have electronics experts, and I need to get a manufacturer somewhere and samples made. I can't just start a manufacturing company manufacturing toasters. Anyone can be an author and write a book. And so people flock to it who have absolutely no interest in learning the business behind it. Those people fail. So people wanted to know, how did I, how can they replicate the success that I was having? And the first thing I told them was, in order to have any kind of profit margin, you need to have the highest quality book at the lowest possible price. And the only way to do that is to print your books in China and have them shipped back to the US. China is the epicenter of the world when it comes to printing and most manufacturing, to be honest with you. And then you would see people kind of like glaze over and they'd be afraid of printing in China, and even more afraid of, doing international shipping them back to the US. It's not easy. It's not easy to navigate those waters. So I realized there was something I could do here to help out. So I started the IAPC, where I have printers in China that I have vetted out very carefully. The printers that we work with have all of the licenses that the U.S. would require in terms of, paint not being lead based. They work with Disney and Random House. They've been in business for 10 years. They have in-house art departments. They have footprints at the largest book festivals. I have a list of things that I wanted to make sure that printers had before we would work with them. Same thing with shipping companies. We looked at a lot of shipping companies. We figured out the few that we want to work with. At this point, we funnel so much money to them that we are extremely valuable. So if someone went to a printer on your own, they're going to give you a little bit of a decent price. We're going to be a little more expensive because we have to tack on a little bit of our time plus a little bit of a profit. But if something goes wrong with them printing for you, they're not going to fix that. They have no interest in fixing it. With us, they wouldn't dare not fix the problems they cause because we are far too valuable to them. So there's a benefit to that. Beyond that, we started realizing that people had no place to store these books. People were doing 1,000, 2,000 books. They had no place to store them. 2,000 books takes up a lot of room in your home. We were finding that people in Florida were putting them in places that it was just damp and humid. And, 6 months later, the pages are warping and they don't want to know why. I'm like, well, because they're in fucking Florida. I mean, what do you expect? It's paper. These aren't made out of steel. So we opened up a warehouse, and with that warehouse, we do storage, we do the fulfillment. So we've got 3 people working at the warehouse at this point, and every day we get purchase orders, and we put a pick list together. We run down to the warehouse from the office upstairs and go out and get all the books. We put everything together in envelopes and boxes, ship them out, make sure that everything is secure. So we do all of that. We have a small website called okiebees.com where we sell books on. We don't do a lot with that site. I plan on doing more with it. We have someone coming on soon full time, and part of her responsibilities is going to be to build OKBees a little bit larger because I think we can do a lot more with it than we currently are. That's kind of what IBC is. And if you want prices for your book, just feel free to send me over the specs of your book and I can get you a price. We keep our prices on the lower side as opposed to someone like printninja.com, which is Print Ninja. They do what we do. They're very good at it. They've got good printers. They've got great customer service. They're higher priced than we are because they recognize that, most people are only going to print once and they're not going to know how to market their books. So they're never going to print again. I look at it a little bit differently. I look at it like if I can teach you guys how to market your books and I can give seminars and webinars and do things like this and teach you more, and I can keep the price down as low as possible, and give you guys more of a profit, you guys can take that money, parlay that into more ads. You'll sell more. You go back and do more printing. And we see that most of our authors now do second, third, fourth, printings. That means everyone's being successful. Along with that, I've done these summits now for about a year. Last May was the first one I did. I did it for one day in May. We did it in Manhattan, not very huge. We had 24 people who came to attend. I think 7 speakers on different topics. Everyone loved it. They loved it enough that maybe want to do a second one. The second one we did was this last January in Vegas, and we had 44 people who came live and 40 more people who were there virtual. And, out of I did a survey afterwards, out of a 10, potential 10 stars, you can give it 1 to 10. The average that we have was 9.3. Almost everybody said they wanted to come back and come to it again. Everyone had a great time, learned a lot. The next one is going to be this upcoming August. Like I said, it's going to be, in Nashville. It's going to be a 3-day event. The main event's going to be on Saturday, the 19th. Some really good speakers, really great topics, some workshops so we can do some hands-on stuff. And then if you guys want to spend a little bit more on meeting with on presenting your books to the distributor, you can buy a 5-minute meeting to present it. Why would you have to pay for that? They're not making any money. They're doing it for me as a courtesy because I'm one of their top publishers. They're not getting any money for that. I am, because these events cost a lot of money to get the hotels, to get the hotel space, the event space, the food. I got to fly everyone out there who is speaking. I got to pay for all their stuff. It cost me close to $18,000 to run these things. In the past, in Vegas, it was $545 for the day, and that included pitching to a literary agent. And not everyone wanted to pitch to a literary agent. So this time what I did was I said, look, I'm only going to make it $295 for the event. If you want to pitch to a distributor, not everyone was going to want to. If you want to, it's just $75 more. And that way the whole thing is a little bit cheaper and you get to pick and choose what you want. You get a lot out of it by not having your book published. But one of the speakers that I'm actually looking forward to listening to is this guy, Chris, who is a CPA. He's also an author. He's going to be talking about the financial part of it, what you need to know in terms of sales taxes, understanding, your cash flow, what your expenses are going to be, how much profit you can make, all the stuff that we don't want to hear. That you're going to sounds boring, but it's going to be really, really helpful, especially if you're on the outset of, if you're getting ready to publish. this is a really good thing to hear. You're going to hear from Makini Regal Martin, who just a year ago, had gotten, I think she had a Kickstarter campaign where she was trying to get like $8,000. She ended up getting like $25,000. She's going to talk about how she did that. She's sold thousands of books since then. Her book is one of the most beautiful books that we've ever printed. She's going to come and talk about how she's built her success after only a year. I'm going to be doing a presentation. Marty from APG is going to talk about distribution and how to get books into large retail stores. Even if you want to present your book and it's not written yet, it's just a manuscript, you can still present that. And they'll tell you, hey, you know what? I think we've got a buyer for this kind of book. When it's ready, let us know. Or they might say, hey, look, I don't think that Barnes Noble might, is really going to like that sort of a book, or retailers aren't going to buy that book. That's something good for you to know whether or not you should invest in it. So I do think it's a good idea to come, even if your book's not printed yet.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity, even if you can't go personally, just to be able to connect and to learn. I'm a big fan of continuing to build our knowledge. That's why we do these meetings. And I definitely recommend getting plugged into some of the stuff that Jay's doing, because if you're not a part of his children's book Facebook group, you should be. And if you're looking to get print quotes and you're considering the bulk printing, you definitely want to go to IAPC and these seminars and things that he puts together. Also, the summits are just a fabulous way to keep on top of the knowledge. Thank you, Jay. We really appreciate all that you're doing for the author community. And thank you so much for coming and giving us all of this great knowledge today.
My pleasure. I'm sorry if I kind of waxed poetic a couple of times there, but
no, I think it was great. I think it absolutely is great. Could you tell me, where would you like people to reach out to you? You said by email. What's the best email address for you?
Best email, I'll put in the chat here. Jay Miletsky at IAPC Books tends to be the best one.
Jay Miletsky at IAPC Books. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, Jay. Thank you.